My husband brought home a young woman. I waited for her to pay her respects, but she shouted, "All men are born equal." I suggested she become a concubine, but she clung to my husband demanding one man, one woman, for life. My husband told me to yield to her. I stood silent for a long while. Then I kicked him into the stinking ditch. "You're the one born equal to dogs. You two can go live as a pair of dogs for life." Before Song Yen returned, my imperial brother repeatedly warned me to keep a low profile. The Song family had just earned military honors, and if I caused trouble now, he wouldn't be able to openly favor me. I patted my chest, promising to be virtuous and avoid trouble. On the day Song Yen returned triumphant, I dutifully led my concubines to greet him at the gate. That's when I saw him accompanied by a girl with an unfamiliar face. She stepped down from his carriage in strange, exotic attire, surveyed us all, and gave a dismissive look. Muttering to herself, "So ancient noble ladies are just two eyes and a mouth, huh?" When she spotted me, she paused, adding awkwardly, "Beautiful, yes, but soulless." Song Dog gazed at her with tender amusement. "They certainly can't match your vibrant spirit." Her mutterings were too loud, we all heard her clearly. A noble concubine behind me flared with anger. "How dare you! You see the young mistress and don't bow?" Everyone stared at her. The girl grew indignant, shouting, "All men are created equal," as she reluctantly shuffled forward. Song Yin clearly admired her frankness, finding her refreshingly different. He spoke up for her, "Wushuang is not like you. Don't force her to adhere to your rigid formalities." After so long apart, the first words he spoke to me upon meeting again were defending another woman. Lowering my gaze, I raised a hand to quiet the growing murmurs among the concubines behind me, my tone gentle, "Never mind. Let's not dwell on such things on our first meeting." On this day of triumphant celebration, I didn't want conflict over trivialities. Having just made bold promises to His Majesty, a quarrel would make it awkward to report to the palace. On the way back, a cold draft swept through the hallway. I gave a small sneeze, noticing the girl beside me wore thin, cool clothing. Just as I reached to offer my cloak, Song Yen, showing rare thoughtfulness, wrapped his own cloak around her. My hand paused mid-motion. Embarrassed, I lowered it. This is troublesome. How am I supposed to demonstrate my virtue and gentleness? He kept walking ahead, with that girl by his side, leaving me, his legitimate wife, behind. I quickened my pace to catch up and inquired gently, "May I ask about this young lady's family background?" Song Yen ignored me, preoccupied with tucking the girl's robe. Embarrassment flushed my face. His guard whispered in his stead, "Miss Su is an orphan." An orphan, huh? That wouldn't warrant a high rank. With virtuous consideration, I offered, "Why not take Miss Su as a concubine? I'll prepare her dowry." A generous and thoughtful mistress like me, surely he'd be pleased. My voice dropped, tinged with unwelcome bitterness. Why should that dog of a man get to have so many beauties as concubines, while I'm held back by my imperial brother, unable to get even a male companion? It was heartbreaking. Suddenly, Song Yen stopped. Perhaps thinking my low tone stemmed from jealousy, his expression turned impatient. "Zhao Jinyu, her affairs are none of your concern." The girl overheard my suggestion. Instead of gratitude or delight, she responded with utter disdain, "What respectable woman would ever want to be someone's concubine?" Her words darkened the faces of the entire group of concubines behind me. Ignoring everyone's expressions, she clung to my husband's arm and cooed, "My dear Song, I've always said it, Su Wushuang will never share a husband. I only accept one man for a lifetime." What utter nonsense! One man for a lifetime? Who in their right mind would choose that? Keeping 100 or 80 handsome men would be a waste of one's precious birth. I stared at her in shock, but before I could speak, Song Yen, fearing my rebuke, rushed to her defense. "Zhao Jinyu, she's an orphan with no one to rely on. She's innocent and naive, unlike you. Don't be hard on her. Give her some leeway." I froze in place. Silence hung heavy for a moment. Then I kicked him into the stinking ditch. "No more pretending." Rolling my eyes wide, I sneered with disdain and arrogance, "You're the one born equal to dogs. You two can go live out your one life, one love, one dog together." Heaven knows, I really was trying to restrain myself. Less than 15 minutes of virtuous behavior, and I was utterly exhausted. The dog man splashed in the water. I turned to the time-traveling woman beside me. Don't just stand there. Didn't you want to be together for all eternity? Jump in and share this dog's suffering. The time-traveling woman froze, her face etched with utter disbelief. After all, just moments ago I'd been the picture of virtuous grace, generous, considerate, tender. Essentially, the epitome of easy to bully and quick to swallow my pride. But truth be told, I'm not even remotely touched by any of those traditional virtues of a proper lady. As the emperor's only legitimate younger sister, the sole princess of the great Liang dynasty, who else would be arrogant if not me? Who else would be so arrogant if not me? I sneered, you reckless fool, daring to talk of equality before this princess. All men are born equal? Why don't you go be equal with the beggars on the street? Why don't you go live a life of one husband, one wife with the old farmer in the fields? That farmer couldn't afford a second wife, he'd never let two women share one husband. She fell speechless, her face turning pale at my self-proclamation. Song Yin must not have told her that beyond being the Song family's daughter-in-law, I was also the dynasty's precious Princess Xiaoyu. The time-traveling woman dithered, refusing to jump. I kicked her right into the stinking ditch too. Watching the pair of dogs splashing about in the filth, I offered a cheerful warning, careful now, that lotus pond was just drained. It's crawling with mud snakes, leeches, and crabs. No sooner had the words left my mouth than the time traveler shrieked, her face turning deathly pale as she thrashed wildly. To an observer, she might have seemed on the verge of drowning. I frowned and mocked her coldly, stop wailing. This water only comes up to your waist. You won't drown thrashing like that. Try lying down and splashing around instead. The time traveler froze stiffly in place. Song Yen had already scrambled ashore, angrily yanking a lotus node from his head as he stormed over. Zhao Jingyu, did you dig up all the lotus I planted? Yes, I did. I admitted without hesitation. This stinking pond? Freshly dug. Like it? Someone went to the border and refuses to come back. These lotus flowers have no one to admire them. Might as well fill it in and plant something I like. A figure covered in mud approached from across the way, utterly filthy. My words were bold and righteous, but my feet betrayed my disgust. I shrank back timidly, retreating behind the beauty beside me. But then, a piercing pain shot through my foot. Oh no, I'd twisted my ankle kicking someone. The sudden agony brought tears to my eyes. The beauties nearby rushed over, their voices filled with concern. Your Highness, what happened? Just then, Song Yan's father, mother, brother, and sister-in-law returned. Witnessing this scene, they froze for a moment before the old general roared, Song Yan. Have you bullied the prince again? That night, Song Yan was dragged to the ancestral hall and received dozens of lashes, while the time-traveling woman soaked in the stinking pond all night. Surrounded by the household physicians treating my sprained ankle, the beautiful concubines gathered to fuss over me. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law brought me a pile of restorative herbs. The old general cursed and swore, next time he makes you cry, I'll break his legs. Song Yan, freshly beaten, was carried in just then. Alone in a corner, he lay while a mere apprentice applied medicine to his wounds, a pitiful sight. I couldn't help but laugh. He caught me. Our eyes locked, sparks flying like lightning, the kind of intense hatred that flares when enemies meet. After a long moment, he snorted coldly and looked away. He hated me, so I hated him. We'd despised each other for years. On our wedding night, he abandoned me to drink and carouse at a brothel, cheering on the courtesan. When dragged back, he was beaten. For the next month, he refused to sleep in our bridal chamber, holing up in the study, earning another beating. Then he shamelessly wormed his way into the Song family army, marching off to war with his father. He spent the entire campaign freeloading and doing nothing, earning no military honors whatsoever. Instead, he brought back some arrogant orphan girl who didn't know her place. Well, here we are again, another beating. He gets whacked daily, yet he never learns his lesson. If not for his father and elder brother's glorious military achievements, this good-for-nothing's ashes would have been scattered in the moat. If he weren't the most handsome man in the capital, I'd have killed this useless drunkard. I stamped my foot fiercely at my imperial brother. My brother wasn't the least bit intimidated by my fierce glare. Instead, he smiled, his gaunt face with sharp cheekbones radiating absolute certainty. You wouldn't. He's the youngest son of the Song family. You wouldn't risk alienating the Song family's loyal veterans. His laughter was too forceful. He covered his mouth and began coughing. I hurriedly patted his back, heart pounding with worry at the sound of his cough. My brother asked me to at least make a show of sending medicine to Song Yin. Without a second thought, I nodded obediently, every rebellious bone in my body suddenly straightened, afraid he might get too excited and start coughing again. Returning to the Song residence, I personally spent half the day brewing the medicine in the kitchen before carrying it to visit that Song dog. Upon arriving, I bumped right into the time-traveling woman, who was also carrying a bowl of medicine, preparing to enter the room. I couldn't be bothered to glance at her. Passing her by, I reached Song Yan's bedside. Not even looking at him, I slammed the steaming bowl onto the table and said curtly, "Drink." Song Yan gave me a listless glance, frowned, and turned his head. "Why is it you?" "I won't drink it." "What, afraid it's bitter?" "I'm afraid you've spiked it," Song Yan maliciously surmised. He set aside the medicine I'd prepared and downed the bowl the time-traveling woman offered in one gulp. She glanced at me before coaxing him in a soft voice, "Young Master Song, take your time. It simmered for ages, the potency is strong. Have some candied fruit to cut the bitterness." That glance, beneath the respectful fear, hid a certain smugness, a vain satisfaction that seemed to say, "Looks like even the princess can't compare to how Song Lang favors me." I was raised personally by the emperor himself. Her petty schemes were transparent to me at a glance. Her words were carefully crafted to mislead, as if she herself had laboriously prepared the medicine. In truth, she'd merely waited for the kitchen to finish brewing it, then snatched the task from the maidservant to curry favor, a common tactic in palace intrigues and family rivalries. After all, who would willingly take on the drudgery of kitchen duties? But I would. She didn't know that the medicine she brought from the kitchen was what remained after I'd tended the fire for hours. Those vying for favor need only clumsily curry a man's favor. But I am a princess. My actions may be unrestrained, yet I cannot afford to be riddled with flaws. Take this bowl of medicine. If it were delivered from my hands, what if a spy slipped in a lethal poison to sow discord between the royal family and the military commanders? That would only trouble my imperial brother. She only sees my arrogance, blind to the meticulous planning behind it, then gloats over winning a man's favor. Just as she fails to see how I deliberately indulge her, let her run wild, and turn a blind eye. Song Yan bit into the candied fruit, then spat it out. Too sweet. Her affected manner was irritating to watch. I turned and left, not caring whether he drank the medicine or not. My only concern was maintaining appearances to reassure my royal brother. The next few days followed the same pattern. He left the medicine I sent untouched, even discarding it, yet dutifully drank what Su Wuxuang offered. But since he annoyed me, I certainly wouldn't let him get away with it. As the last batch of medicine neared completion, I hummed a tune while adding castor beans and yellow gentian. Carrying the food box down the path, I encountered a group of concubines admiring the flowers. The beauties eagerly offered to help carry my load. Out of the question. This bowl was laced with something potent. How could I risk these lovely sisters becoming innocent victims? I insisted on carrying it myself, refusing even a maid's help. As I was declining their offers, Su Wuxuang passed by, timidly offering her respects. By the time I reached Song Yan's door, I overheard her whispering to Song Yan, "The women in this grand mansion are truly pitiful. Female competition is everywhere." The subtext, I'm different from those women. I don't engage in rivalries. I'm exceptional, and I pity them. Look! How kind and compassionate I am. Song Yan replied impatiently, a bunch of women squabbling over men day in and day out, making the whole place a cesspool. The most fiercely jealous noble concubine, hearing this, bristled with indignation. She rolled up her sleeves and demanded my permission. "Your Highness, may I wring the necks of this adulterous pair?" I frowned disapprovingly. That's far too violent. Xiao Hua, how many times must I tell you? Violence never solves anything. You're a noble concubine now, be refined, be composed. No sooner had the words left my mouth than I flung open the door without pausing. With a deft, violent, and utterly hypocritical motion, I hurled the food box in my hand straight at the dogman's head. It landed squarely on Song Yan's dog head. Song Yan's hairpin flew out in his flustered state, his face flushed with anger. "Zhao Jingyu, what the hell are you doing?" I slapped him across the face. "Shut up." Ignoring him, I strolled leisurely over to Su Wushuang. Seeing her frightened, pitiful expression, I asked with a light chuckle, "Not into female rivalry, huh? Then stop clinging to other people's married men. Head out the front gate, turn right, and walk straight. There's a nunnery there. Go there. I guarantee you'll never see a man again in your life. How about chanting sutras and praying for the people's blessings?" Su Wushuang stammered for a long while, unable to respond. Song Yan, his cheek still bearing the slap mark, stepped in front of her, shielding her from me, his own wife, as he confronted me. "Zhao Jingyu, take your grievances out on me. Don't pick on her. Me. She's not worth my trouble." I sat down without waiting for a response, sipping my tea. "Once you finish today's medicine, I'll leave. That will fulfill my task." He must have long suspected my daily visits were ordered by His Majesty. Song Yan ordered impatiently, "Bring the medicine." Su Wushuang presented the bowl she'd brought, her little finger accidentally brushing Song Yan. She flushed and looked at him, the atmosphere growing charged. Watching the scene unfold with leisurely detachment, I added a sour note with a mocking laugh. "No female rivalry. Just serving men. Playing the hypocrite, pretending to be virtuous while mocking and pitying others as whores." Su Wushuang flushed crimson, unable to retort. She glanced at Song Yan, hoping he'd defend her, but he was busy drinking the medicine. After a small sip, his brow furrowed. "So bitter. Why is today's medicine different?" My tone turned icy. "Could it be laced with something?" "Absolutely not," Su Wushuang replied nervously in a low voice. After all, she hadn't brewed the medicine herself. Provoked by my words, she felt compelled to prove the medicine was fine. She brought the bowl back and gulped down a large mouthful, her face contorting in agony. Song Yan looked suspicious, grimacing as he drank the rest. I couldn't help but laugh, leaving them utterly bewildered. Amid their puzzled stares, I kindly reminded them it really was laced with coptis and croton seeds. Because all the medicine these past months was prepared and brewed by me. Clang! Song Yan's bowl clattered to the floor. In disbelief, he turned to Su Wushuang. "Didn't you say you brewed this medicine yourself?" Su Wushuang's face drained of color as she clutched her stomach. With the truth now out, there was no point in pretending. "Guilty," she admitted. "Yes. I brought it from the kitchen." Her eyes flickered with surprise as she glanced at me, likely stunned that the concoctions she'd brought were actually brewed by me, the princess herself. "Oh," Song Yan's face darkened. But before he could question her further, the medicine took effect. His face still grim, he bolted away, leaving Su Wushuang standing there helplessly. "Me, aren't you going to the outhouse?" Then I distinctly heard her stomach rumble. Su Wushuang blushed crimson and scampered away. It wasn't until late afternoon that Song Yan crawled out, utterly spent. The entire household had gathered to gawk. Infuriated and humiliated, he bellowed at the top of his lungs, "Get out! All of you, get out!" The servants were stunned into silence. They had no idea what had gotten into the young master. They'd only come to distribute lotus roots and crabs. I was directing the men to turn the emptied lotus pond completely upside down. After delivering all the dug-up lotus roots and lake delicacies to every courtyard, there were still plenty left over. I distributed them to the household servants and maids. Song Yan saw me uproot his prized lotus flowers and give away the lotus roots for soup. His vision darkened, and he wailed weakly, "You're wasting precious things." I replied, "What this princess dislikes isn't precious, no matter how valuable it is." His veiled criticism was clear enough. Though he was a useless, idle young master, he possessed a face of unparalleled beauty, peerless in the world. Galloping past on horseback through the main street, the fluttering of his robes and a fleeting glance from his phoenix-like eyes could set hearts aflutter. Under the dazzling daylight, countless maidens waved their sleeves from balconies. Coupled with his privileged lineage, he ranked among the most sought-after bachelors in the capital. But those who disliked me naturally wouldn't win my affection, no matter how handsome they were. My mother was utterly obsessed with looks. Enchanted by Song Yan's youthful beauty, she arranged a marriage alliance with the Song family long ago. But as Song Yan grew, he became increasingly twisted, heading irreversibly toward becoming a useless good-for-nothing. Everyone tacitly forgot about that verbal engagement. Later, envoys arrived from neighboring Moon Kingdom. After presenting their own princesses, they requested a royal alliance, seeking to marry a Liang Kingdom princess as their crown prince's consort. The Yu Kingdom had plenty of princesses, both legitimate and illegitimate, but my father had only me as his daughter. Naturally, he couldn't bear to send me to Yu. Having just received their beautiful princesses, he couldn't outright refuse, so he declared I was already betrothed. He swept his gaze over the assembled ministers, signaling for someone to step forward and relieve the emperor of this marriage obligation. A prince consort cannot hold office or engage in warfare, hardly the first choice for an ambitious young man. The ministers fell silent. Fortunately, the loyal General Song, devoted to his sovereign and country, offered up his youngest son, declaring the two families had already arranged a betrothal. Only then did my father, the emperor, recall this verbal agreement. Deeply moved by the old general's willingness to share the emperor's burdens, he made an exception, permitting this prince consort to serve in the military and hold office, treating him as any commoner would. The ministers present all bitterly regretted their decisions. Had they known His Majesty would be so magnanimous, who would have refused the chance to marry the most beautiful princess of the court? The emperor was pleased, the empress was pleased, the old general was pleased, and I was indifferent. But Song Yan was anything but pleased. His heart belonged to another, a girl who had saved his life, also an orphan. The Song family, grateful, had taken her in as a niece and raised her in their household for several years. Song Yan was deeply fond of her. He refused me, resisting fiercely, insisting he would marry no one else. Alas, his father and elder brother crushed his defiance without mercy. It made me look like some heartless villain, a meddler breaking up a loving couple. I tidied myself up, preparing to see Song Yan. I planned to give him a rotten idea, to incite and fund his elopement with that girl. Then, as a jilted wife, I'd tearfully collect handsome male companions who resembled him, displaying my longing for my husband. Song Yan was so strikingly handsome that almost any type of beautiful man bore some resemblance to him. What a delightfully wicked scheme. The moment I stepped into the Song residence, that girl went straight to my father, the emperor, and volunteered to be sent to the Moon Kingdom as a peace offering. So before I could utter a word of my unorthodox plan, Song Yan looked at me suspiciously and demanded, "Did you force her to go?" Me? Father Emperor couldn't bear to send me to the Moon Kingdom, so naturally he sought another substitute. But alas, his harem held only Mother Empress, and his direct descendants numbered only my elder brother and me, no other female imperial relatives remained. Herein lies the stark disadvantage of my father's position. While other emperors boast harems of thousands, treating princesses as disposable tools to be sent off without a second thought, he has only me, his one and only princess, cherished like a precious treasure. Sending me away leaves him feeling like a half-empty nest old man. Father urged ministers to actively propose marriages, hoping quantity would make up for quality. But the Moon Kingdom was so distant, which family would willingly send their daughter so far away? Then this girl stepped forward, displaying such profound sense of duty it surprised everyone. Father was delighted, granting her the title of princess and preparing lavish dowry. He happily sent her to the Moon Kingdom's envoy. I didn't get my male concubine, and he failed to resist, but somehow we ended up together. On our wedding day, he ran off to the brothel to court the top courtesan. I was yawning and ready for bed when my brother the emperor urged me to go find him. So I yawned my way to the brothel, flung a stack of banknotes at the madam, and said lazily as she stared dumbfounded, "This entire building is mine." Within half an hour, pack up all the beautiful girls inside, especially that courtesan, and send them to the Song residence. After forcing the sale with sheer authority, I turned to my guards and ordered, "Leave a squad here. In half an hour, burn this entire building to the ground." I couldn't be bothered to climb stairs looking for people. On the way back, I encountered a pimp torturing a runaway new girl. I had my guards beat up that group of sleazy men and hauled the girl named Xiaohua into the carriage. The pimp yelled, "Who the hell are you? Dare you give your name? My boss isn't someone to mess with." "And who might your master be?" I asked, thoroughly amused. I had the curtain lifted and peered at him. The man who'd been shouting moments ago stared wide-eyed, his expression turning sickeningly disgusted. When I asked who his master was, he couldn't name a single name. I introduced myself. "Remember this well, I am the second young madam of the Song household, and your new master from this moment on. Any issues? Go see second young master Song." With that, the guards swung their blades. Heads rolled, leaving only the earlier loudmouth fleeing in terror. One was spared to return and report. Offending the reigning princess? Execution by law. This was the consequence. Bullying men, oppressing women, setting fire to commoners' homes. Whenever I committed misdeeds, I always invoked Song Yan's name. He fancies beauties? Then I'll stuff them all into Song Yan's courtyard as concubines, ruin his reputation, and drain his wealth until he's penniless. I also instructed the gatekeeper not to let him in tonight. When he hesitated, I flicked my princess token and sneered coldly. Gatekeeper slammed the gate shut with a clang. When committing crimes, I am Song Yan's wife. When doing good deeds, I am Zhao Jinyu. When wielding power, I am Princess Zhaoyu. On his wedding night, he stood me up and humiliated me. I responded by raiding the brothel, leaving him to sleep on the streets. He faced the consequences and became a laughingstock. That was payback. But perhaps by association, Song Yan grew disdainful even toward the beauties I'd brought back. Now they tiptoed around me daily, reading my mood to curry favor and secure their positions. Xiao Hua was the most naive. She only wanted to repay her debt. This girl had come from the martial arts world, skilled in combat but simple-minded. I elevated her to the position of favored concubine. Song Yan crushed the seed of compassion I'd spared for him, sneering coldly, "Indeed, Zhao Jinyu. Besides your royal brother, you only love dogs, and those who serve as your dogs. Me, better than you, who only loves White Lotus green tea bitches. Song Yan, so you prefer someone spoiled and arrogant, cold-hearted and ruthless? Me, who needs your affection. Dogs are cute. You're not." Woof, a dog's bark interrupted me. Turning around, I saw my dog chasing Su Wuxuang. Its jaws snapped open, biting her sleeve. Su Wuxuang fell face-first onto the ground, staring in terror at my mighty general. How could there be a hound here? "A tribute dog from the frontier," I said with utter disdain. "Dogs never change their ways. Did you two crawl out of an outhouse?" Just as I decided this dog was useless, it yelped, tugging at Su Wuxuang's sleeve and pulling out several candied fruits. It growled at her, then whined pitifully at me. The panting servant who tended the dog rushed over, explaining, "Your Highness, this young lady mistakenly took the mighty general's treats, which is why he chased her." Su Wuxuang's forehead was badly scraped, her sleeve torn, her clothes caked in mud and grass. After a day of purging from the bitter herbs and castor beans, she was pale and mortified, wishing she could sink into the ground. I snapped, "Biting clothes isn't chasing. Whether it's people or candied treats, taking without asking is stealing. If you're going to bite, bite the thief's hand." The dog, cunning as ever, heard this and instantly snapped its jaws around Su Wuxuang's hand. She let out a shrill, piercing scream, scrambling away. A fresh gash appeared on her hand. She looked up at Song Yan pitifully. I didn't know that was dog food. I didn't mean to." She lowered her stance to play up my viciousness and arrogance, hoping Song Yan would back her up. Song Yan hesitated, still resentful about her double-dealing, lying about brewing medicine. But seeing her pitiful expression, he sided with her after all. He turned to me and said, "You." I couldn't stand listening to this pair of dogs' nonsense. Anyway, the time-traveling woman annoyed me, so I seized the chance to scold Song Yan. After all, he was the one who brought her here, so it was all his fault. I reached out to slap him hard across the face, but he swiftly grabbed my wrist. Song Yan roared, "Zhao Jinyu, can you act like a proper lady, refined and composed? Huh? Didn't you despise stuffy, boring proper ladies the most?" I replied with a smirk, raising my other hand to slap him across the face. Violence doesn't solve problems, but damn, it felt good. Song Yan was livid, unconsciously tightening his grip. I hissed in pain, and he immediately let go. My pale wrist was already bruised purple. His face twisted in utter disbelief as he stumbled back 3 meters. He was terrified the old general might catch him and mistake him for bullying me. I was as delicate as a flower, prone to hurting myself even when kicking others. I couldn't be hit, scolded, or angered, not even a firm grip was allowed. Song Yan seated with impotent rage for a long while, his hands still bearing the slap mark. Flicking his sleeve, he snapped at Su Wuxuang. "Why did you provoke her?" Song Yan offered Su Wuxuang no support, merely sweeping his sleeve and leaving. In the days that followed, his patience with her gradually eroded. Su Wuxuang's days in the mansion grew increasingly difficult. Without her patron, she raved, "Men are all unreliable pigs," declaring she would pursue a career. Her talk of career piqued my interest, it sounded intriguing. I ordered her attendants to report every detail of her activities. Yet after half a month of ranting, she continued basking in the Song household's opulent idleness. Not a hint of ambition emerged, instead, she developed a strange sense of superiority. Upon learning my sister-in-law performed daily morning and evening rituals and managed household affairs, she sneered, "Women in ancient times are so well trained. Never stepping beyond the inner courtyard, dependent on men for survival, even serving their in-laws. If I had such family connections, why would I need a man? Isn't building a career far more appealing?" After spending a night soaking in that foul pond, she did learn her lesson, daring no more open mockery. Yet behind closed doors, her gossiping continued unabated. Seems life had simply grown too comfortable. With nothing better to do, I strolled over to my sister-in-law's quarters to inform her of my presence, then made my way to Su Wuxuang's side. Settling into the seat of honor, I sipped my tea with unhurried composure. "This tea's quite good. It'd be a waste for you to guzzle it down." Su Wuxuang looked flustered, barely daring to breathe below. I surveyed the surroundings. "This guest room's nice too. It's a waste for you to just lie around in it." Then I glanced at the servants and attendants below. "Miss Su insists on equality for all. Having so many servants attend to you must make you uncomfortable. We're all equal people, why should they indulge you? Right? These servants are equally wasted." Cold sweat broke out on Su Wuxuang's forehead as she wondered what mischief I was up to next. I set down my teacup and said lightly, "Go sleep in the woodshed." Su Wuxuang naturally refused, looking at me ingratiatingly. "Your Highness, have I done something wrong? I can correct it." "Me, slap yourself." The burly matron beside me delivered several sharp slaps, admonishing her, in the prince's presence, "You must address yourself as this humble maiden." Su Wuxuang's face swelled like a pig's head. Tears glistened in her eyes, her expression timid, yet beneath it lay hidden humiliation, resentment, and anger. She murmured, "This humble maiden understands her mistake." I spoke calmly, "Everything you have in this mansion, food, clothing, servants, is arranged by the First Lady. While you waited for meals to be served, she worked so hard she had no time to eat herself. Since you look down on her, you should at least stop interfering with the people and matters she oversees." Su Wuxuang's eyes widened, clearly stunned that I knew every detail of her private gossip. The woodshed was drafty and leaked during rain. After enduring a few nights there, Su Wuxuang couldn't take it anymore. She waited for a long time, then happened to meet Song Yan on the road. She complained to him openly and covertly, hoping he would take her side. Little did she know that with the constant shifting alliances between Liang and Yu, war had erupted once more. As the son of the venerable General Song, Song Yan, though useless, was still somewhat employable. He too was forced into a whirlwind of duties, leaving him no time to concern himself with her petty grievances. Disappointed, Su Wuxuang returned home. Staring at the meager, watery meal, she complained to the lone maid remaining, "The prestigious Song household is being so stingy, feeding me this?" She concluded with a touched sigh, "Everyone else is just a bunch of sycophants. Little grass, you're the only one who still sticks with me. Sit down and eat with me. We're equals. I consider you my best friend. When I make it big, I'll treat you to the finest food and wine." Xiao Chao was both flattered and deeply moved, pledging her loyalty at length. Turning away, she reported her surveillance findings to me. Your Highness, she's been collecting flowers lately, saying she's making face cream? It wasn't just face cream. To make money, Su Wuxuang also started concocting face masks, corsets, and perfume. After months of hustling, spring arrived with little progress. Her products were already being sold elsewhere, though they hadn't caught on in the capital. As an orphaned girl, she struggled to gain traction. Few trusted her ideas. Facing rejection at every turn, Su Wuxuang finally realized how wildly unrealistic her so-called business venture was. After enduring months of hardship in the woodshed, with no status or recognition, and surrounded by endless rumors, one day, she found her way to me with great difficulty and pleaded, Your Highness, this humble maiden wishes to become your concubine. What did you say? Su Wuxuang bit her lip, her voice trembling with humiliation as she raised it. This humble maiden wishes to be the concubine of the second young master. I stared at her for a long moment before laughing. You truly are naive. Su Wuxuang looked at me in confusion. Amidst the servants and maids, surrounded by jewels and finery, I lowered my eyes to her, speaking with rare seriousness. Do not forget, I am a princess, and Song Yan is the imperial son-in-law. Though few still address him thus, he remains the emperor's son-in-law. How could a prince consort have the right to take concubines? Those in the inner quarters were merely taken in on a whim, entertainments to amuse me. Do you see them daring to approach Song Yan? Do you see Song Yan paying them any mind? Father said this prince consort could hold office and lead troops, but would the Song family dare let him truly command the army? Father and I could indulge in our whims, but Song Yan and the Song family knew how to read the times. I only mentioned it casually earlier. You took it seriously? But back then, weren't you full of pride, looking down on the Song family's concubines? Su Wuxuang was rendered speechless. Keeping her around and indulging her was merely to see if she possessed any useful knowledge. Yet after months of fussing about, she hadn't produced anything new. Do you know why you keep hitting walls? I revealed to her, you're not the first orphan girl Song Yan brought back. Before you, there was one named Gu Ruyan. Everything you've been tinkering with, she tried long ago. Gu Ruyan was far more formidable than this current one. She arrived as Song Yan's savior, raised by the Song family as an honored guest, a status far superior to Su Wuxuang's nameless, unrecognized position. In the capital, she invented, traded, disguised herself as a man, befriended countless men, fraternized with princes and ministers as equals, and even performed at the Flower Goddess Festival. Her dance, the Swan's Grace, became legendary. What a refreshingly unpretentious woman she was. The most sought-after noble young men in the capital, all but my imperial brother, were captivated by her charms. Multiple suitors vying for one woman created quite the spectacle. But these were merely her fish. Her ambition was set on my imperial brother. Unfortunately, I disliked her, and naturally, my brother did too. My brother was her target, Song Yan was her fallback. But when Song Yan was betrothed to me as my consort, her escape route vanished. Gu Ruyan grew visibly flustered, her composure shattered, until she discovered a new target no less formidable than my brother, the Crown Prince of the Moon Kingdom. Gu Ruyan volunteered to go to the Moon Kingdom, likely intending to win over its Crown Prince. Her ambitions were vast. She sought to become the mother of a nation while demanding the emperor remain devoted to her alone for life. But she didn't know the Moon Kingdom's Crown Prince was no saint. Not a single court official was willing to send their daughter there, not just because of the distance, but because the Moon Prince was no suitable match. Ignorance truly breeds fearlessness. I wonder how that woman is faring in the Moon Kingdom now. Su Wuxuang listened, her voice thick with disbelief. So, I was just a stand-in? Me, not exactly. She's far more cunning than you. You could never truly replace her. I patted her head like a dog. Just behave yourself. Stay out of trouble, and you can live out your days in the Song household. After all, I'd gained valuable insights from her endeavors. I wasn't about to burn my bridges. Providing for her old age was my way of repaying her. But who knew she'd go and do something stupid? She tried to seduce my imperial brother when he came to visit me. I saw her wobble like a drunken shrimp and stumble right into his arms. My face darkened instantly. I stepped forward and shoved her away. Su Wushuang panicked the moment she saw me. She had an instinctive fear of me. Of course, beneath that fear lay resentment, otherwise, why would she try to throw herself at my brother? Little did she know that not a single concubine remained in the palace. All who dared covet the position of my imperial sister-in-law were executed on the spot. To the outside world, it was proclaimed that the emperor had no desire for a consort, his heart already taken. My expression remained impassive, not a word wasted. Beat her to death. Su Wushuang gasped in disbelief. True enough, if she'd offended me this many times before, by the rules, her bones would have long since gathered dust in the mass grave. But my Zhao family never bothered with rules. Seeing she was useful yet foolish, I'd spared her life. Did she really think a princess could only fight with words and kicks? No rules, but there are lines. My imperial brother is my line. I had no desire to elaborate further. I signaled the guards to drag her away and execute her by beating in the courtroom. Su Wushuang was dragged off, screaming in agony. My royal brother is a gentle and benevolent ruler. Yet he always indulges me. When I made such decisive, lethal judgments in his presence, he merely frowned. Jinyu, it's not good for a young lady to have too much blood on her hands. I obediently agreed. Very well. Next time, I'll have the old eunuchs and officials in charge of punishments handle it. Song Yan had long forgotten Su Wushuang. Returning mid-journey to learn of this, he paused for a long moment before frowning and sneering. She seduced me, and you let her run wild. But the moment she flirts with your imperial brother, you have her beaten to death. Is it just because I'm not your Achilles heel? Was he out of his mind? Fortunately, Song Yan had no time for further fuss before being dragged off to the front lines. The war concluded with the Moon Kingdom's defeat. Their crown prince and crown princess were captured by the old General Song. When Song Yan returned this time, a woman named Gu Rian accompanied him. Seems Gu Rian fared well in Yu Kingdom, she even snagged the crown princess title. But the poor soul got captured alongside the crown prince. As the enemy nation's crown princess, she should have been imprisoned with him. Yet she was also the Song family's nominal cousin, my father the emperor's personally bestowed princess of Liang, and Song Yan's savior. Thus, the Song family secured her release and sent her back to the Song residence. When Gu Rian arrived at the Song residence, I was tending to my imperial brother. He had collapsed after court and I rushed back to the palace, keeping vigil by his side all night. Lying on the imperial bed, his eyes were tightly shut, his complexion pale, his frame gaunt. He refused to tell me what ailed him, yet it was plain to see his condition was worsening by the hour. Frustrated, I stepped out of the palace hall. Passing by a group of imperial physicians, I noticed the youngest and most handsome among them, the apprentice of the chief physician. Lowering my gaze, I warned him, treat him well. If you fail, I'll have you buried with him. The young physician bowed. Your Highness may rest assured. This servant shall spare no effort. As I left the palace, I encountered the escort escorting Crown Prince Yu to his house arrest at the imperial retreat. Rumors described Crown Prince Ming as cruel and bloodthirsty, treating lives as straw, countless women having perished by his hand. As we passed, I caught a clear glimpse of his features. Jet black hair cascaded down his shoulders. His brow and lips still bore fresh wounds, crimson traces staining his jade-like, pallid face. His deep, peach blossom eyes shimmered with an otherworldly beauty that struck one with awe at a single glance. He noticed me too, halting abruptly. Princess Xiaoyu, have you forgotten me? Of course I remember. I know every generation of his ancestors. My father forced me to memorize every royal prince and noble heir from childhood. I smiled faintly. Of course I do. You've visited Liang Kingdom before, we're practically old acquaintances. Care to stop by my residence? Truthfully, we'd barely interacted and were hardly familiar. I was brazenly lying through my teeth. The crown prince of Yu seemed taken aback. All right. So when Song Yan returned with Gu Rian, I came back to the Song residence with a man of my own, Gu Rian's worst nightmare. Gu Rian was complaining. Song Yan filled in this lotus pond? And planted wild roses? Unwanted weeds, how could they compare to rare lotus flowers? She pointed and criticized the changes to the Song residence like a mistress returning home. But this princess adores these wild flowers. I emerged from among the blooms. The moment she saw me, her pupils contracted. This was her first glimpse of my true face. Gu Rian was a rare beauty herself, accustomed to smooth sailing. Upon suddenly seeing me, her expressions, stunned, dazzled, self-loathing, jealous, couldn't be concealed fast enough. Yet she quickly composed herself, curtsying gracefully as she murmured, "Your Highness may not know, but these lotuses in the pond are no common variety. They are priceless treasures beyond measure, truly embodying the saying, emerging from the mud yet unstained, washed by clear water yet not seductive." Then, her maid continued the story. She was too modest to boast about herself. "Your Highness arrived late and may not know, but this lotus pond was specially planted by the second young master Song for our mistress." When she admired the flowers, her poetic inspiration flowed, and upon the release of Ode to the Lotus, paper became as precious as gold in the capital. The second young master also had a pond dug in his estate and planted a whole pool of them. As if I were utterly ignorant. Gu Rian sighed deeply. How quickly people forget. Had I not gone in your Highness's place for the marriage alliance, Song Yan and your Highness needn't despise each other so. As if I'd forced her into that alliance. She flaunted Song Yan's affection for her, both openly and subtly, gloating over her generous sacrifice. Yet despite that, I still couldn't win Song Yan's favor. I smiled. Then do you know why they're priceless? Gu Rian couldn't answer. I continued, when I reached my coming-of-age ceremony, I prayed for blessings and casually plucked a few lotus blossoms from the palace. I held them briefly before the eyes of the entire court. Since then, this variety has become the most sought-after, priceless and impossible to find. You can admire them only because they're precious, and they're precious because I once cherished them. Whatever this princess favors becomes a treasure. Your opinion matters not, keep it to yourself. Gu Rian gaped, unable to find words. In her past dealings, she had outmaneuvered many noble daughters, carrying an inherent disdain for other women. But none of them were worthy opponents for me. Before a true princess, she was nothing but a clown. I plucked a thorny wild rose and pinned it in her hair, its fine prickles grazing her scalp. The hour is upon us. Princess consort Yu, please remain for lunch. I tugged him backward. The chains on Prince Yu's wrists snapped taut as I pulled him out. His expression remained composed, showing no trace of humiliation at being dragged like a dog. The moment she saw Prince Yu, Gu Rian's pupils contracted sharply. Whether from fear of being pricked or recognizing her nemesis, she trembled imperceptibly. The luncheon was the Song family's welcome banquet and victory celebration. Everyone was present. When they saw me escorting Gu Rian and the Moon Prince in, the entire room fell silent, eyes wide with shock. Song Yan abruptly stood up, his handsome face turning ashen. He yanked me aside, his grip tightening around my wrist. Yet, he controlled the force perfectly as he clasped my hand. "Why did you bring Yu Weiming?" I replied matter-of-factly, "You get to bring women home, but I can't bring men?" Song Yan was speechless. After a long pause, he awkwardly explained, "She insisted on following me. She did save my life after all. I owe her a debt of gratitude." No matter how unwilling he was, dinner still had to be eaten. Gu Rian sat beside the Moon Prince, trembling and shrinking back. Song Yan seethed with inexplicable resentment, viewing the man across from him as a thorn in his side. The two Song family generals awkwardly shared the celebratory banquet with their captive. Prince Yu ate with elegant composure, his gaze inscrutable. The strange, agonizing luncheon concluded. The Song family swiftly changed their minds, packing Gu Rian away to accompany Prince Yu to the imperial retreat. The princess was displeased. They could sense it. Her discontent stemmed mainly from her imperial brother's worsening illness, forcing her to act as regent while handling a mountain of troublesome affairs. Under normal circumstances, I would have found Gu Rian quite amusing. But now, I had no patience for her. I just wanted her to get as far away as possible. Still, I didn't have her confined. In fact, I even instructed behind the scenes that the various families should invite her to their events more often. Gu Rian loved to show off. She composed poetry daily, competing in literary talent with the scholars of the Liang dynasty. Her verses, though seemingly disjointed, were of exceptional quality, earning her immense acclaim. She outshone all the noble ladies combined. As her praise grew ever louder, Gu Rian inevitably began to feel a bit too important for her own good. At the Shanxi festival banquet, she actually advised me, "Your Highness, as a princess, why confine yourself to palace intrigues? Why not follow my example and carve out your own path, living with true brilliance?" Which eye of hers saw me embroiled in palace intrigues? I've been swamped lately. Negotiations with the Moon Kingdom's envoy aren't going smoothly. Looks like they're ready to abandon their crown prince. Makes sense, they've no shortage of princes. Why spend a fortune redeeming this one when they could simply appoint a new heir? After her long-winded speech, I replied coldly, "Oh." At the banquet, I personally set a challenge. The noble ladies present would compose poems, with the prize being a sandalwood box containing an unknown treasure. The theme was Ode to Spring. The noble ladies submitted their poems one after another. When it came to Gu Rian, her line, "I easily recognize the face of the east wind, 1,000 purples and reds are always spring," effortlessly claimed first place. Amidst the applause, I waved for the prize to be brought to her and gestured for her to open it. Gu Rian lifted the lid to reveal a small book. She opened it with puzzlement, her expression suddenly turning pale. The crowd watched her in confusion. I asked, "Do you like this prize?" Gu Rian turned deathly pale, unable to speak. I casually pointed to another noble lady, motioning for her to come forward and read aloud. The lady took the booklet from Gu Rian's hands with a puzzled look. "On a splendid day, seeking beauty by the banks of the sea river, boundless scenery renews itself in an instant. Easily." The more she read, the more off it felt. Easily recognize the face of the east wind, 1,000 purples and reds are always spring? Written by Xu Shi? The noble lady gasped, "Why would you include a poem you just composed in the prize?" The crowd grew even more bewildered. I sneered, because it wasn't her own creation. She plagiarized it, passing it off as her own to steal the spotlight. Her gaze swept past the rear, where guards stepped forward to detain Gu Rian. Meanwhile, a group of palace maids circulated a thick notebook among the attendees. Exclamations rippled through the crowd. "The Ode to the Lotus, written by Zhou Dunyi? That thick notebook?" I snatched it from Su Wushuang and forced her to mark the true authorship. Finally, someone asked, "Who are these people? Why haven't I heard of any of them?" Xiao Hua, now promoted to my personal maid, stepped forward eagerly to explain, stunning the entire room with a single sentence, "They are ancient people from another world. She and I, however, are modern people from another world." Gu Rian's eyes widened. She never imagined Xiao Hua was also a time traveler. Xiao Hua's concise explanation lifted the veil of mystery surrounding time travelers. The high officials, noble ladies, and young aristocrats present took a long while to digest and comprehend her words. I said, "Well then, since you're all gathered here today, I have several announcements to make." I beckoned a eunuch forward, unfolded the prepared imperial edict, and read it aloud, point by point. First, the civil officials are ordered to compile Tang and Song poetry, clearly identifying the original authors, for publication and archival purposes. Second, time travelers are encouraged to present themselves. Our dynasty welcomes all talents. Those with exceptional abilities may be appointed to official posts regardless of background. Third, a reward of 1,000 taels of silver shall be given for reporting time travelers who conceal their identities. Fourth, women may take the imperial examinations, hold official positions, and inherit property. This last clause, slipped in among the others, went largely unnoticed. Before all present, Gu Rian was escorted away. From this day forward, neither the imperial court nor the realm would be easily swayed by those from another world. Extra chapter negotiations failed. The Moon Kingdom refused to be butchered and insisted on returning to reappoint their crown prince. Fine. The Moon Crown Prince was now a liability. I intended to relocate the Moon Crown Prince elsewhere. An abandoned former heir was unworthy of being enshrined in the imperial retreat. Gu Rian was imprisoned on theft charges. Previously, I had spared her due to her status as a Moon Kingdom noble, but now she could be dealt with. I waited for Song Yan to bail out his savior, but after several days, he made no move. I sought him out personally. "Didn't you like Gu Rian? Why aren't you rescuing her?" Song Yan looked utterly bewildered. "When did I ever like her? I have no recollection of that. She saved your life. You ought to pledge yourself to her, I stated earnestly. Song Yan jumped up in protest. Saving one life means selling oneself? Then Yu Weiming would be. Mid-sentence, he flung his sleeve and regained his composure. I don't like her. It was all a charade she orchestrated. She enjoyed years of luxury at the Song residence, used it as a stepping stone to become a crown princess, and when trouble arose, the Song family protected her. That's more than enough repayment for saving her life. I felt a pang of disappointment. I'd thought I'd found Song Yan's weak spot. Gu Rian must have sensed the tension too, as she sent word that she needed to speak with me urgently. After days in prison, she looked haggard. Spotting me, she clung to the cell bars. Song Yan. Did Song Yan come to rescue me? No. He's been surprisingly quiet lately. The glimmer of hope in Gu Rian's eyes shattered. Her voice grew heavy. I regret it. I once looked down on Song Yan as a spoiled playboy, fixated on becoming an emperor's consort. Only after arriving in the Moon Kingdom did I realize how utterly wrong I was. She seemed to recall some terrible memory. You're a princess, precious as gold and jade. You couldn't possibly imagine the life I've endured in the Moon Kingdom. Yu Weiming, he's nothing but a demon. Falling into his hands was worse than death. Actually, Song Yan doesn't necessarily need you, I frowned. What exactly are you trying to say? Gu Rian burst into a maniacal laugh, hysterical, even grotesque. She screamed, You've fallen for it. You've all fallen for Yu Weiming's trap. Then, from the straw, she pulled a long, blackened stick. Without warning, she jabbed it, striking the little flower beside me. What is that? I scrambled backward. But she was faster. She shattered the lock and rushed forward, covering my mouth with a handkerchief that reeked of drugs. I was too weak to fight her off and slowly drifted into unconsciousness. When I awoke, I was in an unfamiliar palace. I had been abducted to the Moon Kingdom's imperial palace. It turned out the Moon Crown Prince's capture was a meticulously planned conspiracy. He had infiltrated enemy territory to lower Liang's guard, subverted Liang's ministers, and secretly escaped. Then, with lightning speed, he launched an attack, an inside-out assault that crushed the enemy like rotten wood. To dare remain trapped alone in Liang without fearing his brother's rise to power, clearly, this Moon Prince's grip on the entire Moon Kingdom was unshakable. The Moon Emperor had likely been stripped of power long ago. Impressive. No wonder he was bred like a poisonous insect among so many princes. My brothers couldn't possibly defeat him, especially while he's ill. I wonder how things are in Liang. This is driving me mad with worry. Locked in the grand hall, my shouts went unanswered. After smashing everything in sight, nearly tearing the entire chamber apart, I finally summoned someone. An old eunuch appeared, trembling at the sight of the devastation. My dear young master, he stammered, these are priceless treasures. Me, summon your master. The old eunuch hesitated. His Majesty is currently performing the coronation ceremony and cannot be disturbed. My expression remained impassive as I flung out a piece of cloth, a curtain I'd torn down while demolishing the hall, and looped it around the beam like white silk. Shamelessly wailing, this is so boring. I might as well die. The old eunuch broke out in a cold sweat. Miss Zhao. I'll take you to His Majesty immediately. I instantly turned docile. All right, let's go. Yu Weiming was indeed occupied, busy with his coronation. Adorned with the imperial crown, black embroidered with gold, he looked even more strikingly handsome and enigmatic. My purpose was clear: how are my imperial brother and the current situation in Liang? Yu Weiming showed no surprise at my audacity in reaching him. He merely raised an eyebrow. You're only concerned about your imperial brother's predicament? Don't you worry about yourself first? Being a princess captured in an enemy palace was indeed perilous. But waking up in this gilded splendor, I'd tested the waters twice, once by wrecking the place, once by throwing a tantrum, and nothing happened. Clearly, he intended to keep me well-fed and pampered. As long as I didn't die, I could keep causing trouble. What was there to worry about? I casually remarked, I'm too beautiful for you to kill. Mainly, as an enemy princess, I'm more valuable alive than dead, useful as a hostage or bargaining chip. When he was captured by Liang, I did the same to him. What goes around comes around. Yu Weiming watched the pearls dangling before him, their jingling sound as deep and measured as pearls rolling on a jade plate. Liang's military campaign is suffering defeat after defeat. As for your royal brother, he studied me with a hint of amusement. He's just been diagnosed with a pregnancy pulse. I furrowed my brow. Yu Weiming looked surprised. You don't seem surprised at all? Surprised about what? I'd guessed it long ago. My royal brother is actually a royal sister, and she's been seduced by that little runt, the chief apprentice of the Imperial Medical Bureau. My father, the emperor, had only one wife, my mother. She bore my imperial sister but was frail. The imperial physicians said she might never conceive again, yet the Zhao clan needed an heir to the throne. So my father concocted a rotten scheme. He publicly declared she had borne a prince. Later, my mother unexpectedly conceived me. She died in childbirth, leaving me motherless. My father raised me personally. An elder sister is like a mother, an elder brother like a father. My sister embodied both. After father's passing, she became both parent and guardian to me. We relied on each other, supporting one another through life's trials. She hid her disguise as a man from me, fearing my worry. But in recent years, her frequent illnesses struck me as odd. I secretly collected some medicinal residue, keeping it hidden from others. I stayed up late poring over medical texts until I realized it was a drug used to suppress a woman's menstruation. My sister's prolonged illness turned me into a healer, which is why I could so effortlessly prepare medicine for Song Yen. Her frailty stemmed from consuming too many haphazard growth-suppressing drugs. I quietly purged the Imperial Medical Bureau, ensuring no one else could obtain such medicinal residues. Any woman who threw herself at her or showed signs of abnormality was dealt with. I cleared away quite a few tales. When she fell ill, I stayed by her side, personally serving her tea and water without letting others touch her. Truthfully, she was never truly suited to be emperor. She was meant to be a gentle, virtuous wife and mother, raised by our mother, who embodied the quintessential noble lady. I was raised by our father, who taught me the art of imperial scheming, plotting in secret, swaying public opinion, gradually preparing the people of Liang to accept a woman as ruler. Only then could my sister reclaim her feminine identity and live happily as a girl. But he died too soon. There was no other way. My sister's true identity was exposed when Gu Rian spilled the beans just before leaving. Having repeatedly failed to curry favor with Liang's crown prince, she'd long harbored suspicions. Now in Liang, the emperor's gender has been revealed, the regent princess is missing, and Yu is advancing with overwhelming force. With internal turmoil and external threats, the realm must be in utter chaos. Meanwhile, I languished in the enemy palace, waiting for death. Gu Rian strode in with her swarm of followers, her nose in the air, sneering, "How can Princess Zhaoyu still find the heart to feast and drink?" Now that she was on her home turf, Gu Rian spoke without the slightest hint of tact, a stark contrast to the soft-spoken manner she displayed when we first met. I looked listless, not particularly inclined to engage her. Gu Rian flaunted her status, "I am now the highest-ranking imperial consort in the Moon Kingdom. You're merely a princess of a soon-to-be vanished kingdom. If you were to curry favor with me, I might consider pleading your case to His Majesty, perhaps securing you a proper burial in the end." Her incessant chatter was irritating. I silenced her with one question, "Weren't you the crown prince's consort? How come he became emperor and you're just a consort?" Gu Rian fell silent. After some time, she dismissed everyone with a cold laugh and led me to a secluded palace. "Do you know what's inside?" "What?" She pushed open the door. The room was hung with lanterns made from the flayed skin of beauties, an unsettling sight. Gu Rian said, "His Majesty isn't one to cherish delicate things. Perhaps your fate will be to become one of these old lanterns." Yu Weiming was indeed a psychopath, destined to become a tyrant, the kind who would casually administer torture in the grand hall with elegant composure. He was no good, plain and simple. But if I let this little spectacle intimidate me, I wouldn't deserve the surname Zhao or be worthy of the Zhao family. I walked in, flipping through items left and right, even offering a critique. "The artwork is truly exquisite." Then I had them show me another room. At the very back, it was filled with all sorts of strange weapons. There was the long staff that Gu Rian had used to kill Xiaohua that day. Xiaohua had said it was a matchlock. Placing them in a palace where Gu Rian could come and go as she pleased clearly meant this batch wasn't even the most elite weapons. No wonder the Moon Kingdom dared to think about annexing the Liang Kingdom. "Did you make all these?" I asked Gu Rian. Gu Rian beamed with pride. "I provided the rough blueprints. Without these, I'd have died long ago and never reached my current position." I sighed regretfully. "Why didn't you draw these while in Liang? Had you, they'd have made you a king outright. Why resort to seducing men?" She looked stunned, clearly unaware Liang could infect women as kings. She didn't know the Zhao family always defied convention. "I don't despise time-traveling women. I despise hypocrites like you, those who chant one life, one love while seducing men left and right. Every era has loyal, clear-minded souls. My father, the emperor, had only one wife, my mother, because she loved him deeply. True love requires genuine reciprocity, they never flaunted it. The modern world exposed you to progressive ideas, yet you merely parroted them. You claim independence and freedom, yet never ceased clinging to men. Had you focused your energy properly, you could have truly carved out your own path long ago." With that, a shot struck her chest. She fell to the ground in shock, utterly unprepared, never imagining I could master the flintlock after just one glance. "A life for a life," I declared. As Gu Rian lay dying, Yu Weiming arrived. As a prisoner, I just shot his newly appointed consort with a single shot. Now I sat leisurely cracking sunflower seeds. This was my third attempt to test his limits. Gu Rian, clinging to her last breaths, saw Yu Weiming and her eyes lit up. Weakly, she cried out, "Your Majesty! Your Majesty, save me!" Yu Weiming remained utterly cold. He merely stood his ground and asked me, "Why did you kill her?" "She killed my little flower." That was all. Yu Weiming asked no more, ordering his men to carry away the body. He truly indulged me, his tolerance was so low it surprised even me. I leaned closer, meeting his gaze, and asked curiously, "Do you like me, Yu Weiming?" Direct and bold, the question momentarily stunned him. He lowered his gaze slightly. "Princess Zhao, you may have forgotten, but I owe you a life debt." "What? I saved him? When did that happen?" I couldn't recall a thing, nervously averting his gaze. Still, he didn't deny my question. I shot him a sympathetic glance. "Everyone who likes me ends up unlucky. Father Emperor raised me from childhood to imperial standards. As Zhao Jinyu, I could never indulge in romantic entanglements." Song Yin was right about one thing. Aside from my only blood relative, my imperial sister, I only care for dogs, and those who serve as my dogs. I pressed my advantage with a smile. "Yu Weiming, I'm going moldy cooped up in the palace. I want to go shopping." Yu Weiming gritted his teeth in resignation. "When I was captured, you treated me like a dog. Now the tables are turned, and I've ended up bringing home a little devil. Not only did I want to go shopping, but after growing bored of that, I demanded to go hunting. When hunting grew tiresome, I insisted on flying kites. Once kite flying lost its charm, I spent my days tormenting the concubines in the harem. Even on enemy territory, I remained as spoiled and arrogant as ever. Until news arrived, my imperial sister had passed away. I staggered, returning alone to the grand hall. I locked myself in my chambers for days, losing all appetite. After dismissing another group of food bearers, I stared at a guard in the corner. Grabbing his sleeve, I murmured in a daze, "Song Yen, I have no imperial sister anymore." Song Yen startled, quickly covering my mouth. After glancing around to ensure no one had overheard, he asked, bewildered, "When did you realize I'd snuck in?" "I noticed long ago," I replied, utterly dejected. Though I appeared to wander aimlessly, I was secretly planting spies and gathering intelligence. How could I truly give up and wait for doom? With the Empress Dowager gone, several generals held the front lines. Now, Song Yen presided over the affairs of Liang Kingdom, having been appointed regent by the Empress Dowager before her passing. Song Yen told me to stay calm. Among the time travelers I had recruited earlier, someone had managed to create cannons. The tide of battle would soon turn. I remained listless. "I thought you'd seize this chance to rebel. After all, you've been plotting for so many years. Song Yin lowered his phoenix-like eyes. As he glanced around, a faint glow shimmered within the dark shadows. His cool voice carried, "Song, I pledge to serve as your subject for life." Only I could grasp the weight of those words. As a child, Song Yin was not only beautiful but brilliant, composing poetry at 4, writing essays at 5. He was a prodigy renowned far and wide, which is why my mother, the Empress Dowager, favored him so. Yet the imperial astrologer declared the purple star was shifting, pointing toward the Song residence. My father, the emperor, began to suspect the Song family. For years, the Song family kept a low profile, and even the child prodigy gradually faded into obscurity. Fearing suspicion, they forbade Song Yin from taking the lead. The Song family deliberately raised him to be useless. On the surface, he truly appeared to be a drunken, idle playboy. Little did his own family know that he had been pretending all along. He must have resented it, plotting rebellion. My father never fully trusted him. After fate brought us together, I didn't stay at the princess's residence but moved into the Song residence instead. That very night, I raided his private holdings, that brothel. I found nothing. After staying at the Song residence for a while with no signs of trouble, I dug up the only place I hadn't searched, the Lotus Pond. Still, I found nothing. Now he's essentially exposed himself. So what was really going on with that brothel and Lotus Pond? Song Yin snapped irritably, "Everything. All things that would get us both beheaded. I brought Su Wuxuang back just to distract you while we moved the goods." I asked curiously, "But you hate me, right? Why not take advantage of the chaos?" Song Yin gritted his teeth. "Zhao Jinyu, you have no heart." Then he stormed off, furious for no apparent reason. Sigh. Men's hearts are like needles at the bottom of the sea. The defeat came crashing down like a mountain. On the day the imperial capital of Yu was breached, Song Yan's men had already hidden me away. When I emerged, the war had ended. He and his men had seized the palace. Yu Weiming was found in that secluded palace chamber, idly holding an exquisite palace lantern. He gazed at it lazily, showing not a shred of fear for his impending death. He handed the lantern to me. "Here, take it back. Though you probably don't remember. You're heartless." The moment the lantern touched my hand, he suddenly seized mine, placing a sharp dagger within my grasp. Clutching my hand, he plunged the blade into his own heart. His deep, dark eyes fixed on me as he murmured softly, with a faint smile, "I return your life to you." The peerlessly handsome emperor of his generation slowly collapsed to the ground. For the first time, I ended a life with my own hands. Staring blankly at the dagger in my grasp, tears fell unbidden. A strange ache welled up within me as I murmured, "I'm sorry." Returning to Liang Kingdom, I was greeted by the people's fervent welcome. Some even called for me to ascend the throne. After all, I was the sole surviving heir of the Zhao royal family. Moreover, with Father Emperor's long-laid plans and the edicts I'd issued, Liang's customs had grown increasingly open-minded. The idea of a woman as emperor gradually became accepted as natural. I found my elder sister's hiding place. Her previous death had been an escape I'd arranged. "Sister, you can now openly become empress." I'd already prepared the justification for her return to the palace. Dressed in women's attire, she stroked her rounded belly with a look of tenderness and shook her head gently. "Jinyu, I think things are fine as they are. You're far more suited to be emperor than I am." That little runt from the Imperial Medical Institute tugged at my sister's hand. "Your Highness, the people truly want you." I felt a pang of disappointment. "All right." As I donned the crown atop the lofty sacrificial platform, with ministers standing at a distance, I asked Song Yen, "So why exactly did you hate me?" Song Yen didn't answer. Only during a pause in the ceremony, his eyes deepening, he murmured in his pleasant voice, "Your Highness, I haven't hated you for a long time. I like you." His beautiful eyes flushed slightly, and he finally murmured with lingering reluctance, "Why didn't you save me back then?" I had no idea what he was talking about, my face blank with confusion. Later, on an ordinary evening, as I passed through the long corridor and watched the flickering lantern light swaying from the eaves, inspiration struck me, and I recalled an old memory. When I was young, an envoy from the Moon Kingdom visited. We went hunting together. Late at night, a fierce beast charged into the camp, scattering the crowd. Palace attendants rushed me to a safe corner. Turning my head, I saw two figures swept into the raging current, the young master of the Song family and the young prince of the Moon Kingdom. The stream raged fiercely. Beside me lay a long vine. There was only time to grab one person. I chose to save the crown prince of the Moon Kingdom. For if the Moon Kingdom's heir died in the Liang Kingdom, it would spark conflict. As a princess of a nation, I had to consider the greater good. I pulled the youth to safety and thrust the palace lantern into his hands. Wait here. Hold this lantern, someone will come for you. As I turned to leave, he seized my hand. His features were strikingly beautiful, his touch icy cold. Unease flashed in his eyes. Where are you going? I pulled my hand free. Song Yan was swept away. I must find him. Without another glance, I walked along the stream bank. I searched for him all night. Only when I saw him rescued by a woman on the opposite bank did I finally leave with peace of mind. So this was the old story Yu Weiming and Song Yan were referring to. The end.